What is going on, everyone? My name's Eric, and today on the channel I'm going to be talking about something that I get asked a lot. So what I'm going to be covering today is essentially everything that I look for and everything that I look at on a used guitar when I'm maybe looking to go buy a used guitar to see if it's maybe worth it or not, because there is always going to be a reason that a guitar is for sale on the used market. And if you walk into a guitar that actually has a lot of issues that weren't disclosed by the seller or anything like that, the guitar actually might cost you more than what it is. So what I'm going to show you is a few things that I look for on used guitars to see if I'm actually going to buy the guitar or not, and I want to pass them on to you because I know a lot of us are buying used guitars with the current state of new guitar prices and everything like that. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. So the first thing that you want to do when you're testing out a used guitar of any sort, whether it's at a used guitar store or whether it's on Marketplace or something like that, you want to plug it in, you want to make sure it works. And this guitar here doesn't have strings on it. This is how it showed up. I'm sure this guitar is working because it came from a music store, but if you are in this situation, for example, maybe the seller doesn't have strings on the guitar, that might be a bit of a red flag for you. Here's a quick way on how you can test a guitar even if it doesn't have any strings on it. All right, we got the guitar plugged in here. This is going into my 5150 Iconic, but this can be done with any sort of amp. The guitar is also plugged in on the clean side of the amp just so we can actually get some signal from the guitar as well. So what you want to do when you have electric guitar pickups in your guitar, you got to take something that's metal. So I'm going to use this Floyd Rose arm here, and then I'm going to go down to the bridge pickup and make sure the volume is all the way up, and then I'm actually just going to tap the pickup magnets. Even though this guitar here has the covered magnets on here, you can just tap individual bobbins on a regular humbucker like that. So otherwise, you're just going to do this. I got some sound here. So then what I'm also going to do is turn the volume knob down and back up, so then I can actually test if the volume knob needs to be cleaned out or replaced as well. That sounds like it's pretty good to me. Since these are Fishman Fluence pickups, they're going to have another push-pull mode on them, so I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to pull the volume pot up. You can hear there's a drop in volume because that's what happens when you engage the different modes on Fishman Fluence pickups. Same thing if your guitar has split coil functionality and everything like that. Make sure you test all the electronics just like that, and if you hear the sound is changing when you're going through different modes on the electronics on your guitar, you're probably in a win-win situation there. Same thing moving to the middle position on this particular guitar. I got sound all the way to the neck, and that works. That's a simple way of how you can test your guitar's electronics without actually having strings on your guitar. Or even after you install new pickups, always do this test before you actually go and throw strings on it. Now, if you're hearing any sort of scratching or anything like that when you're adjusting the volume pot or even with the toggle switch, get a bit of contact cleaner. I'm going to show that on screen right now. Any brand will do, but as long as it is labeled contact cleaner, and spray a little bit of that in the volume pod and in the toggle selector, and then you're going to be good to go after you just run it back and forth in the toggle selector and the volume pot a few times, and then you are set and you're ready to go and start playing. Now, the next thing that I really check for on any sort of used guitar is making sure the truss rod actually works. And that's a really big thing that you really want to check on all of your guitars, whether they are new or brand new, because having a broken truss rod is literally a make or break for most guitars. So the thing you can do is simply just test it. Make sure you have an Allen wrench that actually fits the truss rod size here. You're going to put the Allen wrench inside of the truss rod adjustment piece here. I'm going to move it back and forth ever so slightly, and that is to determine whether or not the truss rod itself and the adjustment piece right in there is stripped or not. Because if the truss rod is stripped, that is going to be a giant job to actually replace and get out of the guitar and install a new piece. Essentially, if the truss rod adjustment piece is stripped, the Allen wrench is going to move freely and it's not going to stop like it is over here. Basically, your guitar is rendered essentially useless because you're not going to be able to adjust the neck of the guitar based on the different kinds of climates that your guitar will be in through the years and just depending on where you are living with this guitar. So make sure the truss rod is always working, and if you are feeling the grooves and the truss rod is actually not stripped or anything, just give it a quick little easy turn left and right just to make sure that it moves. You don't want to go too much because, again, if you're making too big of passes on your truss rod, you might risk actually breaking the truss rod or doing some damage to the neck, and I've gone over that in another video in a bit more detail. That's going to be linked right up in the cards, so go ahead and check that out when you are done with this video. Now, the next thing that you're going to be checking on your guitar is actually how well the tuners move, because believe it or not, there are gears inside of all of the different tuners on your guitar here, and sometimes if they are left on their own, sometimes the gearing in here will actually kind of seize up, and that's actually happened to a few friends of mine who have actually went out and replaced their sets of tuners because the tuners weren't moving and they were seized up. There's an adjustment screw on the back here that will actually determine how tight or how loose the adjustment feel is. So you can adjust that to your heart's content really easy with just a Phillips head screwdriver here or a star-shaped screwdriver. Adjust the screw left or right depending on if you want the feel to be a little bit more loose or if you want it to be a little bit more tight when you're adjusting the tuning on your guitar. But otherwise, if the tuners are not moving at all, you can put a little bit of gear oil, which you're gonna see on screen right now. You're gonna put that in the actual tuners themselves, and that'll actually help break away some of the corrosion and some of the rust that might be in there that's preventing the tuners from actually moving properly. And something that I do recommend that you get is a drill and one of these drill bits here. This is going to fit right on the end of the tuner, and in case those tuners are super seized up for some reason, you can simply just throw the bit on here with your drill and do that, operate the drill in either way, and just to get the lubricating oil moving all through there and actually break the seal and actually have these tuners move freely. They're fine on this guitar, but in case that happens to you, that's an easy fix that you can do to get your tuners moving and save you some money. Now the next thing you want to check out on your used guitar or bass is actually the screws on the guitar and some of the mounting hardware. What you want to do is actually look at the screws. What you want to do is look at any of the contact points, anything that's going to be moving with the Allen wrench screws, the pickup mounting screws and anything like that. See if they are loose or if they are stripped out or anything like that. Now if they're loose and the actual screw adjustment heads look fine like they do on the bridge here of this Ibanez guitar, that's going to be pretty good. The screws up at the truss rod cover look good as well. And the neck bolt screws, those look fine as well. Now taking a look at the pickup mounting screws, it might be kind of hard to see on camera, but this one right here, the neck pickup high treble side mounting screw, is actually kind of stripped out. That might be a make or break for you on buying a used guitar, because when the direct mount pickup screws are actually kind of stripped out, it's going to be really hard to actually adjust these pickups, and it might even be hard to actually take the screw out to actually replace it. So depending on how bad it is stripped, that might cause you a headache later down the road. It might cause your tech a headache down the road, and might cost you a little bit more money to get your used guitar up to snuff. Now, if any of the mounting hardware on the guitar is a little loose and you have to adjust screws, what you want to do is actually go in a crisscross, an X, or a star pattern, however many bolts there are. So essentially, you are distributing the amount of tension that's going onto the body when you're adjusting the screws down evenly, and you're not going to adjust one side of the hardware into the body before the other side, because if you do that, you do risk stripping out the holes that the screws are sitting in, which would then cause major problems down the road. Same thing with the neck bolts, or if you have a Fender style bridge where all of the bolts are at the back, make sure you go furthest side all the way to the inside. All right, so the big issue with this guitar is that the pickups were sitting too high and that a lot of the strings couldn't be adjusted lower because they would just hit the pickups and you couldn't actually fret some of the notes on the guitar because the strings were hitting the pickups. I personally don't like this style of supporting your pickups if they are direct mounted to the body. I think there's better ways to do it, such as simply adding foam in here. Foam is a little bit more spongy and a little bit more malleable, so then it can go up and down with the pickup as needed. Whereas this is a bunch of excess rubber in here and it's just going to bind up as we're seeing here and not get the pickup low enough. And same issue is going on with the neck pickup, and I actually had to remove the neck from this guitar in order to actually access the neck pickup here, just because this was stuck in really good. So I wanted to be able to leverage it from this side here, and here we are. It's able to be pulled out, very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and change that out and make this way easier for the customer to adjust going forward so we avoid this issue on his guitar. And realistically, the final thing about buying a used guitar is honestly just assessing the overall condition of the guitar. And I have this guitar lit up pretty good right here. You could see there are a couple dings on the body here. Nothing that the new owner clearly couldn't live with or anything like that. But if you're trying to find a good deal on a used guitar, you might have to make a few sacrifices, especially with a couple dings and everything like that. Now, after spending a good amount of time with this guitar and putting a good amount of TLC into this guitar, it is now playing as it should be. But that's the thing with buying used guitars. You never know what you're going to get into, and even though everything looks good, like right in front of you, you just never know how things are going to work when you actually start playing the guitar. So make sure when you're going and buying a used guitar, if this is your first time, watch this video and look for those different things that I was talking to you about. Look down the fingerboard of the guitar, make sure the neck is actually straight and not bowed or curved, and if it is, make sure the truss rod works and everything like that. Plug the guitar in, make sure the electronics are working, and make sure you actually play the guitar just so you know there's like no dead frets or anything like that, and make sure you test all of the hardware so you know everything works before you make an investment. Because at the end of the day, people are buying used guitars for a reason. Maybe it's a certain guitar that you can't get brand new anymore, or you just found a good deal on a guitar and you want to make sure that you're actually going to save all your money and not actually spend extra money bringing this into a luthier to actually get it up to playing capability. And again, I love buying used guitars. I love looking for deals on the used market. And I know some of my friends, they love getting used guitars as well for that same reason, because it saves us a little bit of extra money, or we can actually use it as a mod platform like this particular guitar here. But nothing is perfect in life, so make sure you go over your used guitar, and especially if you're buying it from a music store, have them look over it with you and make sure it is good and go through all the functionality and everything like that, and make sure the guitar is going to be right for you and it's actually going to be played more than it's going to be sitting and getting fixed. That's going to do it for today's video. Hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments if you did. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you next time.